Hello and welcome. I'm just going to tweet this out as Leland and I go live. And everybody's welcome to join us. I'm just going to post this link in the Facebook group and need to load Facebook to do that. And hopefully I'll be joined by Leland in a moment. I don't want that link. And it's just me here at the moment, which is not a problem. Get the chair in the right place. And go to want to stream live. And we'll be officially on air in a couple of minutes, and we'll see how it goes. So, okay, welcome, and so welcome to Barb, and welcome to David. This is our regular show, which is on at midday Eastern, and it's myself and Leland Best, and we're talking about everything that's happening in the UK and the US, and with the events of today, and general discussion about things that bring us together and the things that bemuse us about each other's countries. And it's just a general chat, and you're more than welcome to join us on air at some point during the show. And we are going to go live as soon as Leland arrives. He is around somewhere. Just let me check. Right, okay, that's all the promotion done. Okay, good. And hopefully when I press this button, 30-second countdown. Ta-da! Ta-da! Good afternoon, Leland.
Well, that's a good thing.
It's a brilliant thing after this weekend. The fact is, very few people know, and we've kept it within BTS Live because that's where most of the Fire Talk people are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we know better.
Well, I mean, basically, when it works, it's brilliant, and today is a brilliant day because it's working. We're good.
Deal. Yeah. I probably look a little shorter than I'm smaller than Steven today because I was going to use my overlay at the top of my head here once we get going if I need to.
I moved back
a little bit. Well, let's remember who I am. I forgot who I was, so I better tell everybody who I am. Oh, not that one. See how I'm doing over here? Let's go with this one. That's better. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Hey, now we're here. I still have to set you up with Vmix there too, Steven.
That's true. I would love to broadcast out to Facebook at some point, but at the moment I'm just happy to be broadcasting and say hello before we start the real show to
David, Lisa.
Yeah. And we've got 2 guests watching as well, which is good. Yeah.
So big news across the pond over in the UK from the weekend. Somebody kicked some butt at Wimbledon, eh?
That's very true. It is always wonderful when a British player wins Wimbledon. I mean, we put the tournament on every year, and the players come over from the States and Australia and usually kick our ass. But this year, for the second time, Andy Murray became Wimbledon champion, deservedly so. But all the favourites dropped out along the way, but he stood the course through the 6 rounds. In the final on Sunday, he was victorious, 3 straight sets, no messing. It was a businesslike performance, but it was classy as well. And his opponent this time was Canadian. Really? And it's the first time a Canadian has ever appeared in the Wimbledon finals. So, it's tennis is a worldwide sport, and Wimbledon is one of the major Grand Slams of the year, along with France, Melbourne, and of course the US Open. So those 4 tournaments are the ones that everybody wants to win at, and it's a feather in your cap if you do. And Andy has now got 2 feathers, and he's going to go on to great things, because now he's gunning for the #1 spot in the world, which would be quite a feat, because the gentleman who owns it, I say owns it because he's had it for the last 3 years, is going to have to be beaten a couple of times along the way. So Wimbledon, big story. I mean, it's a time when people celebrate being British, and you've got strawberries and cream and people in butters, and the crowd are packed on the centre court at Wimbledon, and it's broadcast worldwide, and it is, of course, a celebration. And it's a sea of calm in current situations on both sides of the pond.
Not like when McEnroe was there.
McEnroe's always there.
I know, but it's like he's the aggravator, I think, in most cases.
Well, he's got an Australian. There's an Australian who's doing who did a McEnroe tournament this year, and he got to the 3rd round and then was beaten by Murray. The situation is that John McEnroe now is a broadcaster in the UK, and he's there 2 weeks at Wimbledon every year, and he also is a coach. So he's coaching tennis players. In fact, he was coaching Andy Murray's opponent this time round.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
So yes, always the
Definitely
connections
an amazing
there.
talent. We can't deny that. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Well, at least we can say on our side of the pond too, at least our girl over there did a little bit of her work too. When it comes to Serena Williams, she managed to pull off her end of Wimbledon and won her side. So that was just awesome, really, for both sides of the pond, I think, when it comes down to it.
True. It's a triumph for sportsmen and sportswomen, because Serena has now won the title 7 times, which is getting on for the record. And she's now joint holder of the world record. She's done 22 Grand Slams. So that's the Melbourne, French, Wimbledon, and the USA Open. And her and her sister won the doubles as well. So they won the women's doubles, and so they are top of the world. And there's always a ball on the Sunday evening as the tournament finishes. And Serena and Andy were there as the overall champions. So yes, triumph.
I'm checking something for my overlay, because I wanted to make sure that any of those folks that might want to participate in this broadcast out on Twitter, feel free to use the hashtag across the pond. We do know it is also affiliated with another radio station, and I believe it's on your side of the pond, correct, Stephen?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, it's a common term linking our 2 countries. I mean, since the days that radio came into being, there's always been a broadcast connection between the 2 states, and Letter from America ran for many years.
Oh, really?
Which on radio. That's a very well-known show in the UK, because it was a British news correspondent with a weekly broadcast from the States to the UK, bringing us up to date on what was happening. And in breaking news, just I know we've not put this in the show because we like to be up to date. Bernie Sanders has just endorsed Hillary.
I heard that. I just heard that before I came on the show. I'm a little in awe, I guess, that he would go that route, but hey, it is what it is. The Democratic Party, I guess, has to maintain its own structure one way or another. But I find it interesting that two people can be so adamantly opposed to each other and then suddenly switch gears and decide to back the other. So I just have a hard time with that, Stephen. That's all.
I can understand why. We've got a similar situation in this country where politicians can plead one case, lose it, and then just join up forces with the people who were opposing them. That's what being a politician is, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Even since Greek times, it's been the ability to take the middle road and to give in when you've lost. But come what may. Talking of come what may, just a bit more news from our side of the pond. We have a new Prime Minister.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Not elected. We don't elect our Prime Minister. They're chosen by their political party. So in the UK, we've got Conservative and Labour, which equates to Democrats equates to Republicans and Democrats. Okay, so as you know, we voted on June 22nd to leave the EU.
Yeah.
And our Prime Minister at the time said, okay, you can leave, but I'm going first. So he disappeared. And that left then a race for the leadership of the Conservative Party in which 5 people took part.
Gotcha.
And they had a vote, and the loser drops out, so they went down to 4. But one left at that time, so they were down to 3 people. And down to 3, and they had another vote, and we were left with 2 ladies. And Theresa May was one of those. And over the weekend, the British press really, I've got to say, that they hounded the second candidate, so much so that she announced that she wouldn't be standing on Monday.
Wow.
So that left us with Theresa May, who is being crowned probably as I speak. Prime Minister Mr. Cameron went to the palace to tell the Queen that he was resigning, and he was quickly followed by Theresa May saying that she was taking over the chalice. So we have a new Prime Minister, and it's good to have somebody in charge at last, because we've been in limbo since June 22nd.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We've got a long way to go, and with the switch around of everything that's taking place, I mean, it's been pretty heated over here lately, as we spoke before the show, Stephen, and I'm not going to get into all of the political aspects of what's been happening over here when it comes to, there are several factors involved, and there's a lot of what you might call, I don't know. There's been an upheaval in some areas. Obviously, we had a lot of police officers killed recently over in Dallas, and it was based on certain things that took place with some shootings that killed what were claimed to be innocents. But obviously, over time, stories change, and we come to find the facts, and then suddenly we realize the stories that we first heard weren't what we thought they were. And that seems to have been part of my issue with what has become of social media and and some of the live streaming aspects of it, because it can cause turmoil if not used properly. We have a lot of people out there who want to say, fire up this camera and show everybody what's going on. But part of the problem there is also that it doesn't always start when the event takes place originally. And what we see is a partial truth. We see a partial instance of what took place, and people make and pass judgments on those partials. And then later on, they realize the rest of the story, and there's a lot of recanting, or there's a lot of this and a lot of that. And people when they don't have all the facts in a row before they make a judgment or pass judgment themselves, then we have problems. And that's really what took place here recently in the US. And I'm not going to get into the depth of it, because I've been through this before, and the debating and the arguing and, all these other things that come up when these issues happen. I'm someone who is a concealed weapons permit carrier. So I was trained on how to address a police officer when I'm pulled over. So I know certain ways to handle myself and what not to do in order to avoid a situation. But I wanted to bring up the fact that there's a difference between here in the US and over in the UK when it comes to the police forces that are out on the streets. And I've recently discovered, because I wasn't even aware of this, I know there were gun laws that went into effect in the UK that restricted the use of guns in a lot of cases. But I just realized in the UK, there have only been like 4 events that have taken place with guns and people dying by the hand of someone with a gun in recent time.
Apart from terrorist attacks, which we had in 2007 and more recently, there haven't been any real gun problems in the UK since 1996. Now, the situation in 1996 was that it was our last ever shooting at a school. And it was a lone gunman, and he targeted the school, and he shot a number of children and teachers in the school. And there was such an uproar from that stiffer gun laws were passed almost within months, saying that you cannot be a concealed carrier of gun. You've got to qualify at a shooting range, and you could only keep a gun in a certain place. It's got to be locked up, and the number of gun owners in the country is controlled in that way, and everybody's registered with the police, and they have the right to inspect the guns at any time. The other thing that is in the UK is we don't have armed police. 90% of our police force are not armed. They've got tasers, but they don't have guns. And we have two special forces, one who are trained in weapons, and they can be called on by the government to patrol. So if you went to Heathrow Airport, you would find armed policemen on patrol throughout the airport. And obviously, when we've got a terrorist warning, then you see them on the streets of London as well. But in our day-to-day lives, we don't see guns. We don't see people carrying guns. We don't see the police with guns. And it's just sort of, we have different ways of actually looking at it. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I'm just saying that they're different.
Oh, and I think it's something to consider, the fact that, you know, we as a nation, we have very similar gun control laws in effect, which I had to go through a very rigorous training in order to receive my CCW. My permit is registered. They have the right to see my gun anytime they want. They can make that effort, but that's very limited with the amount of, you know, with the population we have here, it's much more difficult to maintain that type of consistency. And then, of course, we have so many illegal guns on the streets over here in the U.S. that it's very difficult to maintain that also. But our cops recently have been at issue with the public, and, you know, they're almost arming our police force as a militarized type of entity. And it is a little bit unnerving when you walk the streets and see gangs of police in full riot gear, you know, and similar situations take place in Germany. I mean, Germany has gun laws, but their police are very heavily armed, and they have the ability to go around and really arrest anyone they want at any time, or at least interrogate anyone at any time is what I meant to say. So, you know, there are certainly two different perspectives here when it comes to handling crime, and I'm somewhat awestruck at the fact that the UK police can go around without weapons. What is it that leads them to believe that they're safe by not doing so? How is it that they can feel comfortable? Is it because the guns are locked down so tightly that no citizens have a legal weapon? I mean, that's the part I'm trying to understand here, Stephen.
Right. Okay. As far as legal weapons are concerned, that is pretty well locked down, and all law-abiding citizens wouldn't use guns other than for hunting or for going to shooting galleries, etc. So the general population just don't carry guns. So the police in turn don't need to carry them. They carry tasers, and they have, each police area has a gun squad they can call on. So if an incident does occur, then a rapid response armed team can be called out. But as a general thing, that there are very few guns actually seen on the streets on either side. And the other thing is that I'm not saying we don't have guns. Of course, there is within any major city in the UK a criminal element who will have unlicensed guns, and keeping control of that and keeping that sort of below the horizon is a full-time job for some of our police departments. And you know, we don't have the answer, but generally speaking, we don't have, as I say, since Tomiln in 1996, we've had no incidents at schools. We've had no incidents of gunmen. We have suffered terrorist attacks, but that's a totally different thing against which you can't legislate. You know, and there is no right answer. It's just a question of how cultures have come about. So there
it's
we
just
are.
interesting, and it's something definitely to take into consideration. And we could probably learn a thing or two from those folks over in the UK when it comes to maintaining a peaceable gun control methodology that works, because obviously your stats are much better than ours are when it comes to that. I don't believe in ever taking away the rights of the people, but obviously over time, those rights have to be considered whether or not they're still appropriate for the time, and whether or not we can all stay alive, really, when it comes right down to it. So, Brighter and Better Things. What's this new app out on the market?
Now then, cast your mind back to Pokemon. And the latest craze is Pokemon Go. Unfortunately, we can't get it in the UK at the moment because it's so popular in the USA.
Really? I wasn't aware.
Yeah, it's published in the USA and in Australia. And
it was free for
three or four other countries, but we haven't got it yet because it's too popular.
It's kind of wild. When my son was a huge Pokemon fan when he's probably 22 now. Well, he's going to be 22 in September. And it's one of those things when I look back, he was a Pokemon card collector, and I always used to buy him his Pokemon cards so he could keep his collection up to date and be able to battle his friends and win out the newest, best card on the market or whatever it was at the time. And now I see it's gone, what we want to call, it's a virtual, but it's not, it's more of an augmented reality than a virtual reality. Yeah. So is it cutting out, Barbara? And it may be me. Let's just see. My audio looks good.
Mine
is it just me or is it also Stephen?
Thank you, Jason. And Jason says he's okay. David, can you still hear us?
Okay, great. Well, it's good to know at least maybe it is working. Okay.
Right.
Well, we'll roll with the fact that maybe it is. So, this is what the folks are seeing on their screens when they're out there. And I'm just taking this from an article that was written by Vox.com. If you're interested in going and checking it out, it is something that they just wrote yesterday or this morning, I believe. It was July 12th at 10:30 a.m. So it's called Pokemon Go Android iOS game. So I'll leave the link in the chat for everybody if they want to go see this. This is how it works. They have a small video there also that shows the advertising video that goes with it. And I found it kind of unique, but at the same time, a little disturbing, Stephen, that it's...
Well, I think there's a benefit to this. I mean, the basic principle is that you go out with your phone, and when you get to a particular spot you're interested in, you look through the camera viewfinder, and you may see a Pokemon.
Yes.
If you do, you then try and capture it. And you're collecting virtual Pokemons, and yes. I can see this being sponsored. I can see a whole host of things happening, but there's one thing which has not been mentioned yet, which I think is wonderful. What you're actually doing is getting people out and about and walking. I mean, I did 10,000 steps a day, which is 5 miles, just to keep fit. And this is encouraging people to exercise. Now, given the obesity situation we have in the UK and quite possibly in the US, I think it's a good thing. But my rider would be this, that if you're looking through your camera at the world, you might bump into things. Now, we had a campaign here called Don't Stream and Drive, which was to stop people using mobiles whilst driving. I think we're going to see a Don't Pokemon and walk.
Because I'm kind of worried about that because they showed the example, and I linked the first video, but honestly, folks, there's 3 videos on this web page that are available for you to see. The Pokemon theme song obviously is another, and then the 20 years that Pokemon has played and where it's been and how it's evolved, because this is definitely an evolution of what used to be a card game and a cartoon and several other things that were brought into the marketing end of things. But I see it, I guess for me, Stephen, I totally get the exercise part of it. But when you have 2 people, they show it in the video, 2 people standing at a particular site, like a geocache is really what this is representative of. If you've ever done geocaching, people all sign up for a program and they go out and they place things in a location, and you use GPS to find and track these items, and then you usually replace whatever is there with something of your own so that the next person can come by and find an item and replace it with their own. So that's where the principle arrived from, along with the fact that the Japanese are so engrossed in bug catching that this is where this whole concept came into play. But now we have something virtual or augmented reality that's causing people to be on their phones when they're 5 feet away from each other to join in on this catch routine. and then walk away. You know, it's like, okay, you had a real good opportunity to be part of something with each other and you played it, and then that was it. Did you actually interact?
Yeah. I mean,
That's what I worry about.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You get so hooked in the virtual world or augmented reality world that you miss the real world. But perhaps people will meet by accident. Perhaps this is serendipity at work.
I agree.
You know,
There's a good chance
anything's
of that.
possible.
I think,
I mean, the point I just made is that it's great for people to exercise. It is a way of getting people outdoors rather than in front of the computer screens.
I agree with that. It is something. I think that's going to be the key. I know Joel Comm's big on this whole Pokemon Go thing. He's been out there collecting them already. And he's also into a lot of the VR work that's going on out there, including Oculus Rift and such. But I'm not quite prepared to jump all into the virtual reality marketplace just yet, because I do see it has a lot of work to go before it's conducive of an environment that we can all hang out in. I love the idea, honestly, of being able to go to a virtual place where we as individuals from across the world can get together in a room and see an avatar of each other. I would hope it'd be very representative of who we are, not like a multiplayer game where you have a facade that's over top of you and you're just simply a voice, but rather a representation of yourself that you can project into an environment that's a social environment amongst several individuals, where you can have a meeting and feel like you're really there with that person, and not just a representation of a cartoon character. Or I just think that draws away from the reality aspect. And yes, it's supposed to be virtual reality, so I want to see the reality part of it really come more into play than just the virtual part. And when that comes together, I think we'll see some really cool things taking place. So I want to see my real self in a room somewhere 100 miles away or whatever. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, we to visit places around the world virtually and meet up. Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. And I think the technology is coming along. I mean, we live in exciting times. I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So you know, things are changing all the time.
For sure.
Which is brilliant. For those of you just joining us, this is Across the Pond with Leland Best and myself, and we meet here at the same time every Tuesday, which is midday EDT and 5 p.m. in the UK, and we talk about things which connect us and things which bemuse us, and basically we're talking about things across the pond which join us together. And each show is different. We never know what's going to happen. We meet up an hour before and get a sort of short list together, and then we just wing it from there, which is one of the best things about video.
I enjoy the impromptu effect much more than I do anything completely scripted. I have to script things now and then when I do my own videos, but when it comes to just hanging out socially with others, and I've taken a huge leap on even my social networks recently, I've decided to make certain that I'm avoiding a lot of things that I may have gotten myself involved in the past. I want to see my social networks back to the social, aspect they were meant to have, and be there to share things with people and be that on the spur of the moment type, experience. I prefer it over anything else.
Right. Time for a commercial break, and Leland to talk about Vmix for a moment.
Sure, because Jason Bates asked about it. I am a licensed and authorized reseller for the software known as Vmix. You can check it out at vmix.com if you want to download your own 60-day evaluation version, which is a full pro utilized version that gives you access to all the features. Let me give you a direct link so that you can get to it. I give full support for this software whenever I can, and I'm always here for question answering. I work directly with a group of people over in Chicago that are my backup team when I ever need them. They've been in this business much longer than I have, but they actually offer, they were distributors when it first came over from Australia. The software was developed by a gentleman by the name of Martin. Why can't I think of his name right now? I'm sorry, Sinclair. And he's somewhat of a genius, honestly. There you can get the link to the software, that's the purchase. You'll be able to see the different modes of operation. There's both a basic HD, a standard definition, a high definition, a 4K version, and a pro version, which I'm using today, to show you some of the features that are available. Each version has its own intricacies. Some are near 800, 600 quality. Others are into the 1080p quality, which honestly, when it comes right down to it, live streaming is not fully prepared for 1080p yet anyway. So I highly recommend people don't concern themselves too much over the fact that, you know, there's this version that gives me the ability to do 1080p, yet most people out there are still using cameras that are based on 800, 600 settings. Stephen and I are both here in high def because of the cameras that we use. And we obviously try to record in high def, which, excuse me, I have a bug in my throat, which is what Fire Talk allows us to do. But if you look at Facebook Live, that's still only at 1280 by 720p, so they're not even up to 1080 quality yet. And then, of course, there's the 4K talk about things that our eyes really can't even see yet. So 8K is even in word of mouth as we move forward in streaming abilities and producing video content. But for anyone that wants to try out a software for totally free and actually access it for free, if they wanted to just use the basic version, it's there and available. And I'm here for support at any time at BCB Live. So just send me an email if you need help at leland@BCB Live.
Now, I'm not biased in any way, shape, or form, but there are two excellent videos on Leland's channel on YouTube, which will get you started in Vmix and get you to learn how to connect your camera, how to get a lower third, how to do the backdrops. Is covered in the two videos that Leland has created so far. I'm going
to get a link for that one right now while you're talking, Steve.
Brilliant. And I'm looking forward to the next one in the series, because what I would love to do on live streaming is to stream what you're watching now out to Facebook Live, and that's something which Vmix is more than capable of doing, and we may test that on a future show, perhaps next week. Try and get something working, or I'll come on your show and we'll do it.
Yeah, and that is one of the aspects. I'm going to do another video very shortly on the aspect which I've been trying to set up properly. For some reason, I glitched something out on this when I set it up this morning, and I apologize. What you're seeing now is an overlay that needs to be shrunk down a little bit, but you may have seen it a moment ago, which was basically a direct stream feed from Twitter, where I mentioned using the hashtag across the pond. The software has the ability to link through what's called Vmix Social, and with that in use, you can actually apply it to a hashtag or somebody's profile, etc., and actually have it sync in here. There is a way to run it on Macs, David, and the only way you can do that is through Boot Camp, which would mean you'd have to have a choice boot where you would have to boot into a Windows version on a Mac machine. So I apologize for the sake that they don't have one of those yet, because I know there's been a lot of talk about people wanting to have it on a Mac. So we're just going to have to stay on Mike's or Martin's case and see if we can't get him to develop something on an Apple version. So hopefully we'll do that.
Yeah. But it is remarkable software, and for the price as well. You know, it allows you to expand what you're doing and to make it a more pleasurable experience for people who are watching, and also to broaden your audience without doing anything spectacular.
For sure.
So that's good. Now, one of the things that we can do on Fire Talk, which I'm about to do, is we can do a screen share. And this is how screen share works on Fire Talk. I'm going to share the latest news so we can discuss up-to-date topics as well. And so I'm going to press my screen share button. I may disappear for a moment, and I'm clicking up on my second browser, and you see that Leland and I have been shrunk to the corner, but you know that we're still here. I just want to pick up on a story which I just noticed. I'm on Google News, which I'm just is Twitter. Twitter have just signed a deal with Bloomberg, which would bring the Bloomberg feed onto Twitter. Yeah. So they're expanding. I mean, they did broadcast as we talked about tennis earlier, they did broadcast the Wimbledon on Twitter, and the quality was good. And you know, this is the way things are going. I'm going to close the sharing now, and we're back to where we were. Now the thing about the sharing is it does show up on the recording as well. So the one up for Fire Talk. But yeah, I mean, this is exciting times, because Twitter going with Bloomberg opens up a whole new ballgame, doesn't it?
That's interesting. I didn't catch that news today, so I'm going to have to take a look at that.
Yeah, it's the thing is that things are moving so fast that is, very difficult to keep up, and news is breaking as we're actually on the air. But I just thought that being Twitter related, which I spotted just before we came on air, was definitely pertinent.
Well, there's no doubt, Stephen, that every day, I think nearly, or at least every week, we're getting a new announcement of a new live streaming platform or a new live streaming app. I mean, Joel.com's been kind of on top of a lot of that stuff. From my perspective, I see him out there messing around with a lot of them, and I give him kudos for trying to maintain a consistency and stay alive and active with all of these that are out there. But from my perspective, I'll just give my point of view, and that is, once you find one that works, stick with it. Don't waste your time trying to get on every new platform that comes out, every new application that's available, and try to maintain a presence on 5 different networks at once. Now, I have a way to broadcast through a website that I'll also be doing a demonstration of recently, because I have a contest going right now over at Restream to broadcast out to several feeds at once. But it's not so much where you broadcast as much it is what you broadcast and who you broadcast to. So I would hope that most people come to the understanding that over time they just need to decide and stick with 1 or 2 places that they're going to do their broadcasting and their streaming, so that people can, I mean, I hear this all the time, Stephen, and give me your take on this. I hear a lot of talk about your tribe will go wherever you go. Okay. But I have one thing to say to that. How many times are people going to follow you if you keep changing your location over and over and over and over again? Because I know for me, at times it's like, oh, geez, really? I got to go here because he's going there. I mean, there's kind of a caveat to that are we really expected to always follow the person we like just because they moved somewhere else? I don't think that's necessarily an appropriate thought pattern. So
it's my hobby horse too. I think that the thing is that the beauty of this concept, where we can invite guests in a moment or two, is that we're actually chatting to each other, but we've got a totally interactive experience. That's because Leland and I are physically here, and we can type and we can read exactly what's going on. As soon as you broadcast to YouTube Live, to Blab, to Facebook, then anybody watching that must well be watching the TV, because there's no interaction takes place, because Leland and I have enough trouble keeping our minds on what we're talking about and watching what you're saying to go out and monitor a 2nd or 3rd feed. So I mean, it's good occasionally to broadcast out, but to do it consistently. Now, the other thing which you mentioned there, I mean, you introduced me to Fire Talk back in May, and it blew my mind, because we were on Blab. We've met on Blab on your first show, and Blab got us into broadcasting again, me for the first time. And we enjoyed it so much. And then we came across here, and the quality of the video and the quality of the sound and recording and everything is better than Blab. I mean, it's got the same background, top box, but the quality is so good. And all my shows, with the exception of Blabbing for Britain, are now on Fire Talk. I've got 6 shows between now and the end of the month, and they all take place here. And I won't move from here. Here is great quality. The video from our show today will be downloadable by me, no problems at all. Everybody who subscribes to my channel and your channel gets notified when we go live. I can't think of a better place to be. Now, we could sort of next week go on Huzzer, and the week after that back to Blab, and we keep going around in ever decreasing circles. But it's consistency that counts. In networking, it's consistency on Twitter, on Facebook, and now in broadcasting. Simplest, same time, works the best.
And David makes a good point. If you're an email marketer, the real thing to consider here is to get people on your list, and then you develop that relationship with those people who want to follow you through that list. And there's no better way for those who engage in email marketing. I'm not a big email marketer, to be honest with you, and not everyone is an email marketer. So in a way it is, David, because your list is useless unless you're using the email addresses to present your information to those that you've received email addresses from. So it does relate very heavily on email marketing, but it also builds a rapport with those as long as you're not constantly pitching a sale to them through your email. And I see where you're going with that. But if you'd like to jump in, Stephen, do you have a problem with David coming on?
No, not at all. David, you okay? I'm going to invite you in.
An invite, and let's see what he has to say about it.
Okay.
Mr. David Vaughan.
All right. Would anyone else like to join in? And then we've got 4 on the screen rather
we got the Overlord.
Yeah, no, I don't want to play. I don't want to play.
All right. It's kind of wild that he does that. We want to bring another person in. Barb, you want to join us on this too so we can get a Foursquare going? Because I thought about how else we could do that. I could log into my other account on Fire Talk and get a request in here so that we could make it Foursquares just with a graphic or something, but I've never tried that yet.
Nicky, I'm using.
It's very large.
Right.
Yeah, I've talked to her about this. Caitlin has mentioned. I told her, I said, this widescreen thing, you guys just need to leave an empty seat or something in the Foursquare to avoid that overbearing, like you said, the Overlord view up there. So,
Nicky, would you like to join us?
But David, give us your peace of mind on that. Go for it.
Okay. It's not email marketing. Marketing period is just one aspect. It's conversations. It's about making sure that the community that you serve is in a conversation that you can control. And I'm sorry, there is no conversation out there that you can control other than having people on your email list. There is none, except for maybe their phone numbers. And you're not going to get their phone numbers. You're not going to call 100, 500, 10, 1,000, 5,000 people. Nothing social, not your website, I mean, even email service providers can go down. So on a regular basis, you need to make sure that you have in practice downloading your list so that you have it as a backup in case something happens to your system, so that you can then have a backup plan to try and go to if you need to communicate to your list. So that's all it's all about. It's the conversation, not email marketing, not pitching.
No, I understand where you're coming from, David, but in all reality, when you say you're building a list, let's say you have 10,000 people on your list. What is the purpose of that list, ultimately? Is it just to hold conversations with 10,000 people?
Well, no, but that's not the reason that you're in business either. So, I mean, you're being kind of silly on that aspect, Leland. Everybody's in business to do one thing: make money.
Make money, exactly, and that's all I'm referring to.
A list is simply a tool. The same thing as if you put an ad in the yellow pages, or a sign up in a window, or broadcast something on Twitter. They're all just tools. But the purpose of it is not simply for, and I understand where you're at because a lot of people are jaded just like you are. But that's because people are doing it wrong most of the time. It's also like, most people do Twitter wrong. Most people do every bit of social wrong, just because they're not doing it for conversations. They're not doing it to engage with people, to gain awareness. They're doing it to pitch. Stop.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what you mean by me being jaded. I just don't deal with email very often. That's just my approach. I don't spend my time in email. I work with some individuals.
How do people the community that you serve, how do you stay in touch with them on a regular basis? How do they know where to?
It works pretty well.
Oh, right.
It always worked pretty well for me.
And for my part, I
peer in and I meet with people live and video chats, and I use email irregularly. I really do. I don't spend a lot of time.
But so your business model is one where you're more dependent on people calling you?
In general, yeah.
Okay.
Or I call or I reach out.
And that would be a model that's not, but I mean, there could be things that you could then sit there and collect that information for so that you could keep aware of. that type of stuff. With
I'm not knocking collecting emails and having a list of individuals that are part of, your tribe or part of those people that you follow regularly or interact with regularly. I'm just trying to give you the perspective that there are several different ways to use it, and some people don't use it the same ways that others do. And there are those, obviously, David, that we spoke of, where there are people that collect thousands and thousands and thousands of email addresses simply to broadcast their stuff.
I know. I'm not arguing with that at one bit. There's that's anything in business. That's the invention of business. People have been trying to figure out ways to spam us.
Well, hello, Barbara.
Hey, Barb.
Hi.
How are
I'm
you?
listening. And the bottom line is, excuse me?
I saw your face for a second there, and then you went black. I didn't know if that was intentional or if that was...
No, I didn't have, maybe it picked up my icon. The camera is dead.
Do you guys see her face? I don't see Barbara.
I don't see your face or anything. I just see a black screen.
Right. I too don't like the 3-up screen. So I was looking for a volunteer. And when Barb said she'd no sound, I brought Barb in. And then I've just noticed Nicky's here as well. So we have a surfeit of people wanting to get on air, which is...
That's fine. I can drop.
Oh, no, you're fine,
No,
David.
I'm happy to drop because I, like Stephen, I can't handle the 3 up.
Yeah.
It's just psychologically, it's really doing something.
Okay,
let me ask a question real quick, and Barb doesn't have to stick around. But Stephen, Barb, have you reached out to Fire Talk and said, "Hey, listen," and like taken a screenshot and said, "This is ugly. Can you do something?" Because if they get enough people saying.
Leland is in constant contact.
Yeah, I already talked to Caitlin about it, and she said they're going to see what they can do. I made mention of the fact that Blab was very convenient by having that 4th square available when 3 people were there to say, look, there's still an open seat if you people want to join us. And they're going to work on something similar to that, I think. But
yeah, and I know they've done
need
a tremendous amount of
it a priority.
So I'm not ripping on Fire Talk at all. I'm just.
Yeah, what they don't want is the ability for people to just jump into an ongoing broadcast like you could on Blab. And that's why I said, well, they used to lock the seat out. So why don't you guys find a way to simply allow the host to lock the seat so that people can't come in, inadvertently. So we're working on it. We're seeing what they can do.
Right.
I'll send her.
Catch you later, Bob.
Okay. Well,
And
she jumped out. Okay.
no.
Well, you can bring Nicky, you said was here too?
Yeah.
No? Now this is interesting. It doesn't show her name.
All right. Okay. We'll know in a moment.
You're going to be a prop, Nicky. That's fine. We'll let you be.
Nicky, I had the pleasure on Monday of, yesterday, in actual fact, time's going so fast, chatting with Nicky and Gary Roper.
Oh, okay.
Hello again.
Hi.
Hi, Nicky.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'd moved seats and I was like thinking, if you put me on screen, I'll come back on.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm going to blow myself up a little bit here. I look a little small compared to y'all, so I'm going to see if I can. Don't worry, I'm disappearing just for a second so I can upgrade my size of my overlay.
I'm just sitting close. That's all.
I'm impressed with your ability to.
There we go.
Manifest.
As far as all the cinematics are just a couple of clicks away for anybody, honestly. It's not that difficult to learn. It's a very simple process that's been around for a while, and it's really just a matter of getting the software and hardware. And the hardware is really just a C920. Like I believe, Stephen, you have one. David, you have one. You have. What are you using for a camera, David?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, just the Thunderbolt display. The 920's on the tripod over there in the corner. So.
Yeah, and those run for like $60 online normally, and the software is free for the most part. You don't really need to pay anything to do this kind of work. The only thing you really need is like a blue screen or green screen, which is me. It's a Walmart sheet that I hung. It cost $10 off a dowel off the ceiling, so it's no big deal.
All these tips and tricks.
I know.
Live broadcasting.
Or you can do exactly what you're doing and you look fine.
Yeah. Exactly. But it doesn't matter. As long as you have a backdrop that's clean and not, cluttered with crayon drawings on the wall or something like that.
Or even if you have that.
Yeah. So, David, what have you been up to? Where have you been hanging out lately?
I've been in the corporate side of things
Nice.
for quite a while. So, yeah, well, I mean, my day job.
No, I meant more like your live streaming experiences. Where are you hanging out nowadays?
I haven't really been live streaming became way too much of a distraction. Which
I hear you there.
All social's a distraction anyway. So
I hear you.
It just and Blab had its implosion, and Huzzah's not whatever, and more people seem to be migrating over to Fire Talk, and I'd been meaning to come back to Fire Talk and take a look at it. You and I had talked about it a long time ago, and I had tried it out long ago, and I heard whispers of what was coming. I was like, well, let's see. And they've done a lot in the last 60 days. So,
well, they've been around a long time, and if you haven't been over to Pal Talk recently, also
Pal Talk has been around for a long time. Fire Talk's only been around since December of 2014, I think.
1997, David. 1997 was when Fire Talk was introduced. It was a pretty elaborate live streaming platform back then, but they found that they couldn't monetize it very well. So it went silent for quite a while. And It wasn't until recently, like you said, back in 2014, that it regained traction and started to come back out under the WebRTC, conspice, because that's what they needed, really, was a new platform to work from. But even Pal Talk has now developed video interaction. It's a whole different ball game. It runs a little differently. It's like a raise your hand to talk thing, and you get to talk for as long as you want to hold the mic. But it's one viewer speaks at a time, or one video presentation speaks at a time. But you can still see the other people in the room, up to like 10 at a time, I believe. And I went over and signed up on an account just to check it out. But it's not what it used to be. I used to go on there when it was just audio, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't really experienced the topical discussions that they have out there now on video, so it could be a whole different experience now. But I just love the people out here at Fire Talk because they have the infrastructure, they have the backing. They've been acknowledging that they don't ever intend to charge for this system. That's the one thing I'm really impressed about, because I don't feel that if they have the ability to do so, why not allow people to use it? And then they can monetize streams for the pay-per-view and the membership, channels that they're developing, and work from there. But I think it's awesome that they're allowing a totally free broadcasting platform to those that want to use it. And I see no reason to spend any money anywhere else if I can use this. So.
I mean, the fact that it's free without contract, and you can come in, you start a show anytime. You can broadcast 24/7. The other thing buying for me is that when we were on Huzzah the other day, we learned that the programmers are the two gentlemen, Nick and
Justin.
Yeah, they're programmers. So on this platform, we know that we've got more people involved. And the other factor is that Pal Talk is still going, and it's got 5.5 million users.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is one heck of a user base.
I'm surprised more than
and again, Huzzah, that platform was never designed as social, and this is definitely social.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people, what they want is more the social aspect. So I think they will be happier here. Unfortunately, I think Nick and Justin are now trying to make Huzzah more social, and that's taken away from what their main course was.
It's going to be difficult for them to maintain it, I think, with just two of them until they build a crew of people out there to help them build it up. It's going to be, they're going to see a lot of glitches for a while. I can't speak for their programming abilities, obviously. They seem to be nice kids. I was a little concerned over the fluctuation in prices that took place right away when they realized they had a bunch of people coming over from Blab. So obviously they wanted to monetize it for themselves up front right away. That's fine. That's what they're in business for. That's what they want to do. So as long as they can cater to the folks that want to broadcast and provide a good quality product, fantastic. Let them pay for it. But I just don't feel a need to.
Well, and they were in business before. They've just kind of changed their model.
Right.
They were in business last year. They were servicing, their niche was like musicians. I have no idea, what did or didn't happen, but.
And I think Barbara makes a wonderful point that social doesn't mean recorded. And that's why I would have to say that the difference here between Fire Talk and something like Huzzah or or Blab is this really isn't a social platform. This is a broadcaster's platform. This has been used by Hollywood types for several years now, with the ability to do on-screen interviews on the fly, behind the scenes type stuff during events and promotions and such. And there are some big players out here on Fire Talk that use it regularly. So we have to look at it for what it was originally intended for. And I think this is truly a broadcaster's platform, not so much a social network. So
well,
Blab was intended to be.
They got the Young Turks on there. That was they really clamored, and they got a good group with the Young Turks.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what the Young Turks wanted to do. They wanted a place to where they could run a particular portion of their show live.
Yeah.
So that's what you got. That's what they do.
And we all benefit. Nicky,
Yes.
second time in 2 days on video.
I'm just a prop.
No, you're not just a prop. We can have a second commercial break if you like, and you can talk about your book.
For sure.
Okay, that was.
Tell us what you do,
Your
Nicky.
book.
Well, it's quite nice because I haven't met David or Leland before, so it's a nice way to meet people because you feel as though they're human beings. I don't know if they're paused. My screen froze, so I don't know if it froze.
Yep, you clustered up a little bit there.
Okay.
Video, audio, taken.
Sorry?
Just give it a minute. I think your audio and video needs to catch up real quick. So just give it a second and we'll see what happens. All right, now give it a shot.
No, sorry, go.
I'm just going through my web camera microphone, so it's not I've got an either mic, but I've been set it up for this. Yes. I'm a social, well, I say everybody's a social media person, but I teach small businesses how to use social media to be strategic about doing it. So that's my business in terms of getting other people to use it in the best way possible. In a nutshell. That's what I do. But I've written a book on how to Twitter for business success. I have another book that's about to come out in the next few weeks.
Is that coming out on Amazon?
Yeah, it will be on Amazon. It's converting conversations to customers. So really focusing on LinkedIn and Twitter and how to get sales success without being salesy. Yeah. You know, the soft sell part. About building up relationships and people relationships. But you do need email. I think anybody who tries to do things without email is a little bit short-sighted. You do need to build things. Yeah.
Well, if you want to leave a link to how to get a hold of you down below, Nicky, that way people can find you when that book comes out, that would be great. We'll look for you in a couple of weeks and see if we can't see some announcements on it.
Well, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to chat to Nicky on Fire Talk when the book is released.
Oh, nice.
But I'll hold you to that. We did a chat when I started on Blab. Nicky and I had a wonderful chat about the first book, which was an excellent read. I'm looking forward to reading the second book when it does come out in 2 weeks' time. And it's been good this time to actually follow the progress of the book on Facebook, because you actually charted it, didn't you? Because of your fundraising campaign, choosing the graphics, choosing the cover, all by social media.
I know. Well, it's telling the story, so it's pre-marketing. Say, but it's actually quite nice to get people involved, because especially when you're writing a book, you tend to become quite introspective and almost in your little writing bubble. You've got to actually go out to remember that people need to know about it. And it's just lovely getting support from people and getting people involved with the whole book process.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And we know, if you don't know what Gilberting is, Nicky, that's a process that was achieved over at Blab when people got into the rooms. The mic and usually the audio would flutter, and it took on a name because J.S. Gilbert, who's a voiceover specialist over on that end of the thing, he did some voiceovers for a lot of big software programs. He would come out and his voice would start Gilberting, is what we called it. So that's what you're experiencing. And normally the only way we can fix that is to have you jump out and jump back in. So that would be one alternative before we wrap up today. But Stephen, it's up to you how you want to proceed. I know my first hour here is what I'm normally slated for.
Yeah.
If we want to
Indeed.
wrap up the show and go from there and hold an after show, that's fine. We can do that too.
Yep, I think that's what we should do. So it's been a pleasure, David and Nicky, to talk to you today, and thank you, Barb, for popping in as well. Leland and I enjoyed this hour mostly because we enjoy chatting, and we could blood for Britain and talk for the USA anytime. We're delighted in Fire Talk as a platform, and so thank you to them for hosting. To everybody who's been watching, thank you, and it's goodbye from me.
All right, and thanks for stopping by. If you want to look either of us up here at Fire Talk, it's firetalk.com/Stephen Healey or Leland Best, and you can also find me over at BCB Live. So thanks for coming, everyone.
Okay, right, what we're going to do now is end this broadcast, and then we'll go again.
All right,
a few minutes.
Oh, you want to do it that way? Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Then we can just